Hello, and welcome to the Passion Driven Pioneers interview series. I am your host, John Channon, and today I'm joined by Molly Hough, who is the founder and CEO of JurisConsult Institute. Molly, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, John. I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. So would you just like to kick us off with a brief background as to who you are, what you do, and the business that you're in?
Absolutely. I am an attorney by day, but entrepreneur has always been in my blood. And so I knew coming into the legal world that this was going to be an asset that I had and a skill set that I had. And when I got into the legal world, as someone who did not have much experience in the legal world, I mean, I grew up with a single mother who was a janitor and a PE teacher, so it just wasn't really in my world. But when I joined in private practice, I quickly realized that the sort of key to success here was building a book of business and becoming partner and having some more of that own autonomy, whether I stayed in the traditional firm setting or I opened my own shop or whatever that might look like. But what I quickly realized was that um, even though women had been graduating in equal numbers from law school for over 20 years, we still only make up 27% of partners. And it's only about 3% of partners are women of color. So that's mostly white women that are making partner. And to have only 27% of women partners in firms, even though we've been graduating in more than equal numbers for over 20 years, was really alarming to me. And I think what I was able to really distill down was the piece that I can control and that I can help is by teaching women and equipping women with how to build a book of business. And so that's really where this was born and where my passion was born. It's a skill set that I have that I know how to teach other people. And so that's why I started JurisConsult, is I wanted, my mission is truly to increase the number of women who are in partnership and leadership, firm owners, because I truly believe that that is one way that we can transform the legal profession. So that's a little bit about me and sort of how I got into this and why I started JurisConsult.
So you said, when we were talking a little bit before the show that, you really don't get a lot of business education or how to build your business education
Mhm.
as a lawyer. How quickly did you realize that that was a challenge for a lot of folks? And then what was kind of that, I need to focus on this versus being just the lawyer?
Yeah, I think for me personally, I was very lucky in that I had a female mentor who was a partner at a big law firm. And it was either my second or third year of law school, sat me down and she shared that with me. She said, the quickest way to gain autonomy, more money in your pocket, some influence at a firm is by having your own book of business and having clients. And I didn't really fully understand what she meant, but it was the first sort of trigger for me to pay attention to that. And then I went to a firm that really encouraged business development. And so I think I just gained traction really quickly of like, oh, this is something I'm really good at and something I thoroughly enjoy. And I was seeing lots of really smart, talented lawyers who were being surpassed by people who were better at building books of business. And often the people who had a bigger book of business had more say, more influence. So it was just sort of seeing it play out in real time. And I think the advice to newer lawyers often is just put your head down, do good work, and it will come. And I remember just sitting there always feeling like I was screaming at the top of my lungs and being like, okay, but how? How will it come? And there was never really any steps to help me fill in those blanks. And so I think a lot of lawyers in leadership positions, I think it's unfair to put expectations on them to have to train and develop lawyers as well. I strongly believe that that's something that should be outsourced because you can't train and develop lawyers, manage them, run a business. Like you're asking this person to wear so many different hats. And for some reason, the lawyer world, we continue to do that. And it just feels really unfair to everyone involved. So that's really where I was trying to like fill in those blanks was the okay, but how? How do I become a partner that has influence and creating some really step-by-step guides for people on how to do that?
Well, that's great. So how do you market this business out
Mhm.
there? And then, you mentioned a little bit of a process. Can you talk to us about a little bit about that process as well that you use?
Absolutely. So I am one of the quote unquote cringy LinkedIn influencers. So I mostly market on LinkedIn. That's really where a large part of my following is. But I also market on Instagram as well. So that's really how I market. Um, and then the rest of my marketing happens through word of mouth, just because I do a really great job for my clients and they see results. So my clients end up becoming some of my biggest advocates, which is awesome. As far as a process, so I do 6-month one-on-one coaching, and then I do something called the partnership track, where attorneys who have been practicing for at least 5 years can join this program. And they get to learn all the skills that they need on how to become a partner and do it well. And not just become a glorified associate, right? With the partner name. They're actually building teams, building processes, learning how to build their book, which all that breaks down to is how are we building relationships authentically, right? In a way that doesn't feel icky to you. How are you tracking those relationships? What is your inbound and outbound marketing? Which most lawyers, 90% of lawyers have never even heard of inbound and outbound marketing. Um, and then it's just teaching them a lot of the um, let's not rebuild the wheel here. Let's delegate your time and find what you should be spending your time on. Um, and then often there's a lot of time management that has to happen around the billable hour because that's just the reality of being an attorney is the billable hour. So there's just some time management pieces that have to occur on how to bill hours and also the non-billables of going out and marketing. Um, so there's lots of steps. The process is uh, each month is really broken down into some of those topics and we train them on what that looks like and how it works specifically for them.
All right, I'm going to change the subject a little bit. So you are a lawyer, you're also now a business owner, and then you're also
Yep.
doing coaching of other lawyers and doing what we would call doing the job. Tell us what your work-life balance is kind of like right now.
Yeah. Always an interesting question. I feel that I have a really good work-life balance. I know that might sound not true, but it is true. I have an incredible job as an attorney with a company that I love, that is my biggest cheerleader in what I'm doing because they believe in what I'm doing. I think because of the coaching that I get to do, and running this business, it gives me a lot of meaning and it gives me a lot of energy, for my day-to-day job of being an attorney. So it just really energizes me. I think, of course, there's parts of the business that will always drain you that you don't love. But I think when you find something that you can truly put time into and get energy out of, that's something to pay attention to. Uh, and then, it's just being intentional with your time. I'm a very disciplined person. Um, and so none of my time just happens or comes easily. Like there's a reality to my schedule. But I also take pretty seriously rest. I'm not someone that's working like 12-hour days. I don't encourage that. I don't want to be that person. Um, so it's just a matter of being really intentional and being really disciplined with your time.
So maybe you just, if you could share with the audience just a few of your time management tricks, because I know in my business, right, we do things like block scheduling and then we do
Yeah.
batching of similar tasks, but what are a couple of the tips you might have for folks out there looking to improve their time management?
Mm. I think you have to really pay attention to just how you individually work. I have tried block timing. I have tried, the where you put the timer on your phone and you do like 30 minutes of focused work. I've tried a lot of those tips and tricks, and they work for a lot of people. I am someone that works out of inspiration. So when inspiration hits, I know that I need to move my schedule and adjust my schedule to what I'm feeling inspired about. Um, So I think once I realized that my schedule can be fluid while still being disciplined, if that makes sense, has really helped me rather than just saying, okay, for the next 30 minutes, I put in this block that I needed to work on this administrative task. And I just am like sitting here staring at my computer. I know in that moment that I need to make an adjustment, whether I need to go move my body, I need to go turn on a podcast that might inspire me, I need to just do something that's going to change up my environment to help me get that work done. I really pay attention to that. And that has helped significantly. I think just paying attention to how you work.
Well, that's really interesting, that the flexibility in your schedule and how you're working that is inspiring.
Yeah, and then I'll also say that I do like the top 3 priorities for the day.
Yep.
So every
Good.
day I write down like here's the top 3 things I need to get done. So it's not that like I
Mhm.
just willy-nilly do whatever I want whenever I want, but I do have these moments where it's like, okay, I'm not being productive right now, and that's a cue for me that something needs to change. And so like learning how to pay attention to that. And often it's, yeah, I need to get up and move my body. I need to go walk around the block. I need to again turn on a podcast that inspires me so that I can kind of get this like motivation back or something along those lines. But I always finish my top 3 to-dos. So it doesn't necessarily matter the order for me. It just matters in how I'm paying attention to like my body and my focus levels.
Yeah, and owning your own business, there's nobody there standing over your shoulder helping you try to figure out where to
Right.
spend your time, right? You get
Right.
to make that choice. So let's talk a little bit about adaptability and staying open to change. So in your business, I don't know if things are changing quite a bit. And again, we're focusing on coaching business here. But how do you stay adaptable and open to change, or how do you stay innovative?
Um, I think how I stay, well, I'll tell you right now, the thing that's been difficult, and it's a great problem to have. It's still a problem though to solve. I have a lot more interest than I have capacity.
Mhm.
Um, and so figuring out the best way to scale this model that I have to, I think, move beyond just coaching um, while also staying in line with my values. So I've had so I primarily work with women, and I've had lots of men reach out to me and ask me to coach them. And every single time I decline it. Not because I don't recognize that what I have they might need, but I always give them, here's 3 men that you can go work with, or here's another woman that you could go work with that also takes on men. Um, and so right now I'm getting a lot of interest from firms who want to hire me. And that's where that's getting hard of like, okay, this really is in line with my values. How do I make this work? While also paying attention to the fact that firms are really interested in this and want to hire me for it. Um, so as far as staying innovative, I consume a lot of information. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm a very curious person. And so I really enjoy reading. I enjoy listening to things that provide a different perspective for me. Um, and I'm also not interested in learning lessons that someone else might have learned for me. So I want to absorb that information and do everything I can to maybe skip some of those steps. Probably, not all, but if there's information out there that can help me grow faster or innovate or have I don't know, interesting ideas, I want to hear them. I think uh, I hear a lot of lawyers talk about how they don't feel very inspired and they don't feel like they have people that they can really look up to. Um, and it's always like, okay, well, have you looked outside the 20 lawyers in your office? It's like, well, no. It's like, okay, well, there's a whole world out there of lots of interesting, great people doing wonderful things. And so through relationships, through absorbing information is really how I continue to stay curious and try to innovate my business.
You mentioned thinking about how to scale your business.
Mhm.
Uh, would you mind offering us just a glimpse into your future plans and goals that you have for your business?
Yeah, a big way is going to start offering these programs to firms. So I'm going to be offering a 9-month training program to firms for my partnership track program, and then one for junior partners, where I teach them how to build teams. I teach them how to put systems in place. I teach them how to build a book of business, all these things that are not taught to you, unfortunately. So, and that's really silly. And I think, especially in this hybrid world and hybrid environment, I think firms are a lot more open to how to best train their associates. Um, and so I have a really good product for that, and it works. And so I think that's going to be a big one. And then the other piece is I care deeply about community. Um, I care deeply about how do we foster that and do that well. And I think as attorneys, we just really isolate, and we don't do a good job of reaching out. And so I'd really like to start putting together an app that is a membership model, that creates different events in different cities, and gives people access to information and guest speakers and all that sort of stuff. But those are sort of the two directions that I really see this going.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, knowing that this show, right, is really targeted towards people who are going to be in their first few years of business or thinking about starting up a business,
Mhm.
do you have any final thoughts or words of advice you'd like to share with our audience today?
Yeah. Um, a sort of motto for my life is there's a book out there called Everything is Figureoutable by Marie Forleo. And that is a phrase and a sort of way of life that I've adopted. Every single day I'm encountered with something where I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And every single time I fall back on, okay, but I'm capable of figuring this out. So let's go figure it out. Um, I would say the other thing that has really helped is making decisions quickly. Um, I'm not talking about being irresponsible. You need to gather information, make good decisions, but I think it's really easy to get into decision paralysis. And then before you know it, a month has gone by and you've done nothing on this idea or this relationship you want to cultivate or whatever that might be. So I think if you can take the stance of, I am perfectly capable of figuring this out, and then I need to make a decision about this within the next 4 hours. Or, I do it a little bit more dramatically where I say, like, okay, I have an idea. I need to make a decision in 15 minutes or less, and write it down and see where it takes me. Um, those two things have drastically improved my life and my business. And I would encourage anybody to adopt those mindset mentalities.
That's great. That's a great way to close. So thank you so much for your time today, Molly. It was
Absolutely.
great.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it was great meeting you and learning more about your entrepreneurial journey and your business. So to everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.